What Do a History of Black Resistance, a novel about motherless children in the Jim Crow South, and a meditation on Black love have in common? Somehow, three books that record these themes ended up in my Barnes& and Noble's bag last week. I haven't read any of these books, so consider this a preview, a sneak peek rather than a review. But I would like for us to have a conversation today about the core themes of these books, about the conversations that the authors are inviting us to have, and why I just couldn't leave the bookstore without them. Hello, everyone. My name is Ruth, and welcome back to Words on Plum Street, wherever you're watching from. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get into it. So, the first book that I have is Salvation, Black People and Love by the one and only Bell Hooks. Let's get into the synopsis. Acclaimed visionary and intellectual Bell Hooks began her exploration of the meaning of love in American culture with the best-selling All About Love New Visions. Here she continues her love song to the nation in the groundbreaking and soul-stirring Salvation, Black People and Love. Whether talking about the legacy of slavery, relationships, and marriage in Black life, the prose and the poetry of our most revered artists and leaders, the liberation movements of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, or hip-hop and gangster rap culture, Hooks lets us know what love got to do with it. Salvation is work that helps us heal and shows us how to create American communities using the truly universal experience of love to bring us together. I've decided to break up the themes that I want to talk about in each of these books in three parts. And so instead of exploring everything that the authors are writing about, I thought it would be good to just keep it to three, just because this is just a preview. This is not my complete analysis of these books or my thoughts and feelings. This is just what I've gathered for what these books are about based off of my research. And so for this particular book, the first theme that I want to talk about is the legacy of structural trauma. And Bell Hooks connects this history of slavery to modern relationships, which I think is amazing. And I also think that it's something that is quite difficult to do in a very nuanced and balanced way. And she shows how systemic racism and forced family separation created a legacy of survival that sometimes meant emotional detachment. And these detachments showed up in different relationships. So it showed up between husbands and their wives or their lovers. It showed up between friends. It showed up between grandmothers and their grandchildren, and grandfathers and their grandchildren, and sisters and brothers and fathers and sons. And so I want to see how she separates survival from what it means to truly love after living with this structural trauma and the legacy. Another theme that I am really excited about and is a big theme in this book is the crisis of self-love. And Hooks looks at how white supremacist culture causes what she calls soul murder in the lives of Black children, which creates an internalized shame. And I want to see how she suggests that we undo the messaging to build real self-esteem for our children. And lastly, and I think this is my favorite theme that I will be exploring or looking into in this book, is love as a political practice of freedom. And Hooks isn't just talking about romance, which is what I really love. She is not talking about the kind of love that we see in movies and we read in romance novels. Instead, she explores what she calls a love ethic as a tool for social justice synopsis, and she draws on thinkers that we all know about, like James Baldwin and our beloved Martin Luther King Jr., and she frames love as a practice of freedom. I love the idea of love not just being passive, but love is action. And Hooks argues that it is active, it is radical, and most importantly, it is very political for Black people. The second book that I picked up is We Refuse, A Forceful History of Black Resistance by Kellie Carter Jackson. Can we please take a moment for this cover? This cover is absolutely beautiful. It is a picture of a Black woman. It looks like she's in a Victorian style dress. She has a shotgun in her hand. Her hair is in this beautiful updo. It is long locks. She has a septum piercing and beautiful, absolutely beautiful brown skin. It looks like she is a working woman because she has a line of clothes behind her. And I did a little bit of digging and I found out that this is a painting by a Black artist. His name is Taha Clayton and he is from Brooklyn, New York. So Brooklyn, stand up. But when I saw this cover, I was like, this cover is absolutely stunning. Like, it's one of those covers that you're like, I might not agree with what they're talking about in the book, but I want to pick it up because the cover is just absolutely stunning. So let's get into the synopsis. And it says, Black resistance to white supremacy is often reduced to a single binary between Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolence and Malcolm X's by any means necessary. In We Refuse, historian Kellie Carter Jackson looks beyond this false choice, offering an unflinching examination of the breadth of Black responses to white oppression, particularly those pioneered by Black women. The dismissal of Black violence as an illegitimate form of resistance is in itself a manifestation of white supremacy. Force, from work stoppages and property destruction to armed revolt, has played a pivotal part in securing freedom and justice for Black people for centuries. But force is only one tool among many. Carter Jackson examines other, no less vital tactics that have shaped the Black struggle, from the restorative power of finding joy in the face of suffering to the quiet strength of simply walking away. Clear-eyed, impassioned, and ultimately hopeful, We Refuse offers a fundamental collective to the historical record, a love letter to Black resistance, and a path towards liberation. I am excited to read this book, and I'm excited to read it because of the framework of the multi-layered tactics. So Jackson structures her analysis in a way that I think is very captivating because she breaks down resistance into distinct tools. When I read the book, I'll see that she'll talk about revolution, she talks about protection, force, flight, and joy. And she covers everything from armed revolts, which we are, probably most familiar with, and to property destruction, to the quiet power of just simply walking away. And I just want to remind us that for Black people living in America, our resistance against oppression was very multi-layered, and it didn't look the same within every community. We often remember the nonviolent protests, but I think that we need to hear more about the forceful history of Black resistance. And the theme that I am most excited about in this book is to read about joy as resistance. Because in a world that often demands that Black suffering is hypervisual and it is for everyone to see, I think that there's something very beautiful about finding peace and making art and choosing joy as an act of defiance. I can't wait to see how she weaves in family memory and history and stories of the unsung heroes of our communities that show the resilience and shows that fighting back was something that we've always done. And for us, it was always about protecting ourselves and protecting humanity. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this one. And last but not least is the one and only Kin by Tayari Jones. I believe this book came out in May of this year, and if you are in the booktube space, especially the Black booktube space, you have definitely heard about this book. I love the cover. I think that it is captivating. It definitely grabbed my attention, and she's also the bestseller author of An American Marriage, which I've heard about, I've never read, but I think I'll probably read it after this book. And so let's get into the final synopsis. Vernice and Annie, two motherless daughters raised in Honeysuckle, Louisiana, have been best friends and neighbors since earliest childhood, but are fated to live starkly different lives. Raised by a fierce aunt determined to give her a stable home in the wake of her mother's death, Vernice leaves Honeysuckle for college in Atlanta, where she joins a sisterhood of powerfully connected Black women and discovers a world of affluence, manners, aspiration, and inequality. Annie, abandoned by her mother as a child and fixated on the idea of finding her, sets off on a journey that will take her into a world of peril and adversity, as well as love and adventure, culminating in a battle for her life. A novel about mothers and daughters, friendship and sisterhood, and the complexities of being a woman in the American South. Ken is an exuberant, emotionally rich, unforgettable work from one of the brightest and most irresistible voices in contemporary fiction. One of the core themes of this book is motherlessness, and it takes place in Louisiana, which is where my mom is from. It's where part of my family is from, and specifically in the 1950s. And I'm really interested to see how Jones compares these two kinds of maternal loss and how each shapes how these women love and what they eventually become. I did some research and I saw that Jones' work often explores complex relationships, which is my bread and butter. And here she looks at how childhood bonds hold up against class and ambition. So Niecy goes on to Spelman College in Atlanta, and Annie sets out to search for her missing mother. And it shows how kinship isn't just about blood, but it's about who shows up for you when your paths diverge, when you guys go completely separate ways. And lastly, this book captures the Jim Crow South with real precision. There is one line from a quick review that I read, and it stuck out, and it says, Niecy boards a bus in the 1950s, unsure whether to sit in the back of the front or in the front of the back. And that kind of sharp atmospheric writing about the psychological weight of segregation is why Tayari Jones is a masterful storyteller. So just like all of the other books, I am really excited to get into this one. I will say I do not know if I will be reading all of these books in the month of July, but I will definitely get to them as soon as possible. From Hooks talking about how we heal our capacity to love, to Jones talking about how love and history manifests itself in family ties, and to Kellie Carter Johnson talking about the forceful resistance of Black people, I think that all of these books are great companion reads. And I want you to do something for me. Out of all of the themes that I talked about today, please tell me the one that was most compelling. And if you've read any of these books, let us know in the comment section. Did you enjoy them? Did you not enjoy them? And anything in between. As always, I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.